Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to sit and have a talk with you for the longest while because I know you have a lot to share with us today.
Yeah, well, I'll do my best to try to give you the skinny of it, but
I'm sure it'll be very interesting, Jonathan. Don't hold back. So basically just introduce yourself. Let us know exactly who you are, what your experiences are. How did you start out?
um, first off, I want to say only cops, teachers, and my mom call me Jonathan. Everybody else, you all can call me Jojo.
Jojo. Okay, Jojo, going forward.
But I started off in '91. Um, just by chance, a buddy of mine from high school, his mom was a licensing clerk at John Logan Chev here in Brampton on
Okay.
Queen Street. It used to be an old Chevy dealer, Chev Oldsmobile dealer for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
I got in there washing cars in the used car lot for one summer. And then that winter, they're looking for an oil change guy. I was getting paid at the time on the lot. I think I was maybe getting paid $10 an hour in '91.
901. Yeah. Well, it's not much different now
No,
because the
but I was just the lot guy, right? But
yeah. But
that,
the minimum wage isn't far off. So yeah.
no, but it's like higher now. It's got to be like 14 something, right?
Yes, right now, yeah, $14. Yeah.
But but so then the opening came up in the shop for an oil change guy, and of course that was another dollar or two more, which is
Yeah.
as a young man you're trying to get as much scratch and loot together as you can. So then I took that, and then eventually, of course, an opening came. They asked me, my shop foreman asked me if I wanted to be an apprentice, and even as an oil change guy, you feel like when you first start, you realize all these mechanics are so it's imposing because you're in the shop with all these guys and they're all looking out for you because they don't want you to mess up. And
Yeah.
but some guys can be very vocal, and when they want to get their point across, they literally yelling at you or swearing at you to try to tell you something. But that's just the way people talk. But
Yeah.
in this, find that when you start off at the bottom like that, you kind of you got to take the shit that they're gonna pick on you because you're the new guy and you don't know shit because you're just changing oil, and you hopefully you don't forget to put a drain plug in or oil filter on properly and that nonsense. But when I got in and I realized, they at first it's hard because you think you're not going to fit in as just an oil change guy, and then you got to show them. I think they want to see if they test your metal. They want to see if you're just here for a job or if you really want to do this for something to do as a career. You know what I mean? They want to,
Yeah.
because they probably see this all the time. And I realize that now too, as a mechanic, you see kids that come in and some have the ambition and like that crazy passion. They want to do this. You can see it, right? It's almost like, oh man, I remember being like that. You talk about the car you want to own, and when you're have enough money one day, or you build the car of your dreams or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
after a while, when they accept you, you feel like, it's finally something like you've accomplished. And then you start having to prove yourself, not only by what you do in the shop, but when you get your apprenticeship, you have to also upkeep your education part of it. And you're half of the contract you sign with the dealership. Well, I went through the dealership, and there's another aspect, which is I found I've been always a dealership guy. So there's two types of mechanics, I think, in this trade, as far as what kind of workplace they choose to start at or stay in.
Yeah.
So there's small shops, big shops or private owned shops, and then there's dealerships, right? And I think if you're lucky enough to get into a dealership, what I like about that is that they have everything for you. Like, you're used to the uniforms, the dental, the health benefits, all that stuff, right?
Yes.
But when you work in a small shop, you get to see a lot more vehicles. Now working in a small shop, I realize that there's a lot of cars I've never even driven.
Yeah.
I worked on more Mercedes, Audis, and BMWs in the last 3 weeks I've been at this place than I have in my whole career.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you work in a small shop or a large shop, they don't specialize. Well, some specialize, but
Right.
for the majority of the time, they will take anything that comes through.
Anything they can get.
Yeah.
And this place I'm working at now, I want to give them props. It's Surefire Automotive. They're really good guys. Tim and Scott, two brothers. Funny enough, their last name's Rice, like Filipino eat rice. So, but no, guys are really good for a small shop. They're so busy, and I've always wondered about small shops. How do they survive?
Yes.
But they're smart. They have a big contract with I'm not going to say the name of the company.
Yeah. They usually go for fleet companies and try to secure contracts. Right. Yeah.
One that's really big, and it's a big construction company here in Brampton. I'm not going to say the name, but
yeah,
that one of them. But having said that, like, I think also too, when you work at a dealership, you're going to be that kind of a specialized guy where you're going to be a Toyota guy, a Ford specialist, a BMW, Mercedes, and and in most of the dealerships, I think for the most part are flat rates. So there's another aspect of a mechanic is you get paid hourly, you get paid, or do you go for the flat rate, which is mostly dealership life?
Yeah.
And that it can be lucrative, but it can really be tough in the days like, Christmas, when the kids go back to school, that kind of, it can be up and down paychecks where you're living like one week, 1 month, even you could be just like dragging in all kinds of hours. And then the next month comes September, that when the kids go back to school, you can barely make 40 hours a week if you're lucky.
Yeah. There are certain professions like mechanics, real estate agents, insurance is like feast and famine. So yeah, the markets go up and down and determine whether or not you go home with something healthy.
But on the dealership thing too, staying on the dealerships, what's weird is that everybody in the dealership gets paid either hourly or salary except the mechanics.
Yes, that's true.
What I think happens, and I'm not saying this for the most part, but a lot of guys, and I think that's where they get the bad name, is because flat rate doesn't pay much for warranty stuff if you're having to deal with warranty too. CP hours is different, but
it's different. Yeah.
I think that forces a lot of guys to cut corners and not as do a good a job as you'd want them to be or would expect them to do at any dealership, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think if everybody was hourly or salary, I think there'd be less pressure on mechanics to try to make like hours or try to, you know what I mean? Because as a flat rate mechanic, if you're not making 60 hours or more, like 40, 50 hours, you're like, wow, that was a crap week,
Yeah.
Like guys pulling so it can be good at the dealership. I'm not saying it's not, but unless you're lucky enough to be at a place where all the work's distributed evenly.
Well, we're gonna get a little bit more into that, but you continuing on the line. You said you started out at a small shop and then
the dealership. Then I went. Now I'm at a small.
You started out at a dealership.
Yeah.
Right. At what point at what point did you get to be a certified mechanic?
I think I was licensed in 97 or 96, one of those two.
Okay, so it's 5 to 6 years after you originally started.
Yeah, because I did the MAP 32 program, which is your old 32 weeks at the GMASEP at Centennial College.
Right.
And GMASEP is General Motors Automotive Service Education Program. That's what it stands for. And you do 8 weeks in school, and then you go back to the dealership for 8 weeks. So that starts like in September, and then you only do those 2 intakes you do in one fiscal year. Then you wait the next year, and then you do another 8 weeks in school, and then 8 weeks at the dealership.
Okay.
Right. And you do that 4 times. You do that once a year for 4 years to get your 32 weeks.
Yes.
And have enough. Once you get, I forget how many hours it took me to get enough hours to be able to write your ticket or the test, because they required, even after you finished college and graduated, you had to have so many hours in the shop.
Uh-huh.
Like, right. And then by then, when I wrote, it was like 96. So yeah, it was about, yeah, I've been licensed since then. So, and then stayed at Chevy, Oldsmobile, mostly GM because I did that. That was the schooling. Centennial College. It's either, excuse me, I don't know now if I know they have way more programs, but then it was just GM, Ford. I think there was a Volkswagen program. Canadian Tire was under the tunnel on the other side.
Yeah.
But like, then I think I moved out of the GM domestics in 05 to Toyota in Georgetown. I did Georgetown Toyota for another, I don't know, 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And I got into Lexus sometime. No, I only did Georgetown Toyota for 2.5 years, maybe 2.5. Because yeah, I got into Lexus around 07 and stayed there for almost 10 years. And then from there to Meadowvale, and then Meadowvale to Air Canada finally. And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then last year since COVID, I've been scrambling to find a job where I'm happy with the place. It's not a far drive and the money is good. Well,
yeah,
that's not always the case, right? You can't always check off all the boxes in that
yeah,
space.
yeah, that's true. Because I tell a lot of people that small shops tend to find a way how to survive, right? Because they have to be really, really and truly innovative to stay in the lane. And the cake is big enough for everyone to everyone to survive, because once a person purchases a car from a dealership and leaves, right, 99.9% of the time they don't return to the dealership, especially after the warranty is up. Yeah. Once the warranty is expired, and then they weigh the cost benefit of going back to the dealership, because the dealership has painted an image that they're expensive, which sometimes they're not expensive. The rates are the same. The labor rates across are the same, but the problem with the dealerships is the leadership, right? They're not concentrating on the after sales to keep the customer coming and, you know, increasing their absorption rate. But that's another story tonight, right? So it's all about you. But what we're going to do is we want you to explain to us, how has operations changed over the years since you started out?